Okay, so for the roll call, Commission Chair Marty Rosen,
Present.
Commission Vice Chair Bill Zimmerman, Commissioner Tom Gidroyce,
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gott, and Commissioner Richard Croy.
All right. Rick, would you lead us?
Surely. Would you please rise and join me for the salute to the flag? Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rick. That brings us to item 4. There are no presentations, so item 5, approval of the minutes of January 22. Are there any changes that are required? Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it's approved unanimously. Margarita, are there any modifications to the agenda?
There are none.
Thank you. So we approve the agenda as is. Are there any public comments?
Yes, there are two. Matt Duarte.
Please state your name, Mac.
Duarte. Yes, and good evening. As I said, my name is Matt Duarte. I'm a longtime Menifee resident, and as of Monday, I was just appointed to serve on the board of directors for Valley-Wide Recreation and Parks District. I think I've met some of you before, Robert, of course, but I wanted to come here today, introduce myself formally to the commission, so you could put a face to the name and know that I really would like to work with you all and the city council, and that I intend to be an advocate for Menifee during my term. Just a little bit about me. I'm a married father of 2. I work as an attorney. I actually grew up here in Menifee. My family moved here in 1989. We've been active in the parks and local sports ever since. My mom's a teacher at Cali Kirkpatrick. She's taught in the district for 25 years. My dad works for the school district as well. So we have some long-term ties to this community. And because of that, and I'm sure each of you is no different, I have a very personal connection to my hometown. You know, when my wife and I were deciding where to raise our family, when you look at what this community has, it was really a no-brainer for us. Now, I personally have gotten very involved in our parks, trails, and recreation services for several reasons, but the 2 main reasons I would say are my 2 girls. They're 2 and 4, and if you've ever had kids that age, you know that they live for the parks. And what my kids live for, I live for. So that's what was really the motivation for me. I'm also quite active myself. Open invitation to any of you, 6 a.m. Saturday mornings, the Menifee gym. You can get up with me and try and run with the 20-year-olds. I do my best. But it's, again, open invite for all of you. As far as what I'd like to do on the board of directors, my main goal is to be an advocate for Menifee. One of the things an issue that I think would be important for everybody is to maybe have some of the board meetings held out in Menifee at the facilities at Wheatfield, give everyone out here an opportunity to be heard. And really, I just want to make sure that our citizens continue to have top-rate services at the top-notch facilities that are already there. So I wanted to come and invite you, if you have any comments, questions, feedback, anything, I'm available to you. I'm your representative too. So use me. I'm just down the street. If there's something that I can do for Menifee, for our parks, you can rest assured that I will do whatever I can to make sure that it's done. To that point, and I understand at the last meeting, there was a request for some information relating to Valley-Wide, their additional work contract. And Robert, I think you're probably going to address this more tonight, but if you want, I brought some numbers, charts, figures that I can address any questions you might have. But it is my understanding, based on what I was updated, that Value-Wide is forecasting that they're going to be under budget for their general contract for this year, which I think is a really good thing. So I'm excited about this, and I just thank you guys for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you. When you get a chance, I would assume you don't have cards yet, but when you get a chance to have, would you please get us some?
Yeah,
So
no,
that
I have my personal cards I can give to the clerk here.
Please.
And I'd be happy to take a call from anybody at any time.
Good. And the data that you have you submitted that to Robert?
I
The
got it.
figures I'm talking about.
And I think Robert will probably talk to that. I think Value-Wide became aware of it when they looked at the minutes for last month's meeting. So I have that information, and I can get it to Robert now.
Please.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Yes, Marlene Starkey.
Hello, my name is Marlene Starkey, and I'm here again regarding Peterson Park. And I'm a longtime homeowner who's very, 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 very frustrated with the dog park. I brought some pictures in today. Hopefully, I came last time thinking maybe if the hours were changed, it would be different, but the hours are not monitored from the 7 o'clock. There's nobody there to do anything, so nobody really cares. That doesn't happen. Some of the pictures I brought, maybe suggestions to move part of the dog park, because you have it split in two, from a small dog park and a large dog park. And the small dog park is the one that's closest to the homes. And that picture right there is it's where the entrance is off of Marietta Road by the wash to entrance the park. And if we could move that small dog park, just part of it, over to that section, it would get at least the dog park away from the homes. Because where the small dog park, it's very, very close. So this is a picture of a possible, maybe something to help with the situation. And then I took over on that side. The fence that they put in, I mean, there's so much stuff going on. Fence that they just put in is a joke. They took down the chain link fence. This is what's happening already, and this fence hasn't been there, maybe a month or two, and it's already being busted. At that far entrance to the park by Marietta Road, there's a bench there. There's no lights, there's no nothing. So come 10 o'clock at night, the kids hang out over there because they can't be seen. So this is what they do. They're destructive. There was another picture of a table that they write on. There you go. That's the table. They burn it. Everything. It's horrible. They need lighting over there, but I'm thinking if they move the dog park, there's people there closer to that area. There's another picture. Let's see. Didn't I send it? Right there. You can see the black fence. Right there that's where the small dog park starts or ends or whatever. The houses are right there. There's maybe 10 feet. That bench that's there that sits next to that house right there is a spot where they do a lot of drug dealing. They come in, they park their cars along the street, and they walk all the way down, the kids do. They sit on those benches because it's hidden away from everything, and they do their little drug deals, and they walk off all happy. Or they go over to that far table because it's away from everything. There's nothing by it. And they go over to that table and smoke and drink and do whatever they have to do. And these are young kids. They're not necessarily older kids. They're high school kids that are doing that. But I just took these pictures because that small dog park is so close to the homes. That's my house right there, the far one by the tree or whatever. But it's so close, and that they don't care about the dogs. They just let them bark and bark and bark. There's no control. They don't care. like I said in the last meeting, they told me to put a muzzle on it, as far as that, they don't care. But I just brought in some pictures. There's another one. Along the street side, they had taken down the chain link fence right here, and they just put up that nice little Western-like looking fence. But along the sidewalk where everybody walks, everybody now walks in the dirt where they put all the nice bushes. They put all that bark in there. It's all nice, but it's all dug up because after the dogs go to the bathroom, they kick up the dirt. The people walk through there. They need that chain link fence. Before, people would walk the sidewalk. They had to because there's nothing there. But now it's all open, or they need to put that little fence, Western fence or whatever you want to call it, along the sidewalk so the people can't walk in that flower bed area. But this is what it looks like, and I had quite a few more pictures, but this is the gist of it all around the park where they put the bark in. The people are just walking in there, the dogs are doing their duty, and they don't pick it up because it's in the bark. So hopefully, my biggest thing is hopefully get that small dog park moved, because that corner of the park is really a bad corner.
Yes, Rick?
Yeah, could you show me that picture of the one next to our house again? There. Where is the entrance? Is there a gate that goes into that fenced-off area?
It's down further. The small dog park is fairly large. So even closer to this way, the entrance is about halfway between the two parts. The fence is, I don't know, it's from there where it starts to Marietta Road. So
Okay.
half that distance is where the gate is. One goes to the Marietta Road side is for the big dogs, and then the small dogs are on this side.
I think maybe we can individually go down there and have a look at it and see if we can come up with any sort of recommendations.
But that way, if it's closer, if they just take just that one side and put it towards Marietta Road, they have all that stuff, other stuff going on, or whatever, and it'll take, at least it's not right there with the houses, right on top of us.
Robert?
Sure, just to address some of the concerns that were shared. The fence, the two-rail vinyl fence, is one of our park standards that we're incorporating into what you're reviewing tonight. And this is the first of a couple sites that we've tried this out at. It is a standard in other cities as well. In fact, even Valleywide has this standard for some of its improvements. The black fence that was bordering the street along the curb-adjacent sidewalk was taken out because of the aesthetics of the site. It was not really serving any safety purpose. It actually made the park look like a prison, and we had some of the residents tell us as much.
Right.
So that's why it was removed. The fence that lines the, Alan, if you can go back to that prior, not that one, the one with the planter.
That one.
Like that, right there. So this happens on a daily, if not every day, other day basis, and our maintenance contract through Valleywide is responsible for coming back and pushing the bark back where it goes. This is a regular use issue in every park, not just this one because of the dog park. So we have the same thing that happens over at Audie Murphy with the same thing that happens over at Lau Marsh. This is pretty normal stuff. The breakage of the vinyl fencing is definitely a risk, certainly. But it is an aesthetic improvement, and it is intended for folks that use the grass field of play for sports and other activities to keep them from traipsing into the planters, because as soon as those shrubs become mature, we want to protect them in one way or another. If we put the fence on the other side, then they would be more likely to go into the planter area. So there's a give and take on the design choices that are made. And this was deemed to be the best alternative for the site. The last thing I'll address is on the dog park, the small dog park. Alan, if you go to the picture where the small one's adjacent to the homes, right here on the right there, the black fence, it ends approximately 20 to 30 feet away from that solid brick fence there. And yes, there's an area there that's somewhat hidden. This was probably a design error by the county a long time ago. In our plans, we had considered moving the small dog park to the other side of a large dog park. There is one component that we're still waiting to hear about, which is the street improvements along Marietta. As you know, there is no curb over there. There's no gutter over there. All there is a utility large utility poles, dirt, and then asphalt. And so before we consider what we're going to do over there, we need to find out what the right-of-way improvement plan is. So that's just to give you some background on how we got to this point.
Is there any way to put just along the sidewalk area, the outside by the street, some more of that fence? So when people are walking, they're not walking through that planter area. I mean, it's just full of dog stuff and everything. I mean, it is horrible. If you just, every day, it's just a big thing. And I realize, yeah, people coming in just to sweep up bark is pretty waste of money to me. But if they can at least put that kind of fence along the street side where they're not going to walk in it.
So the maintenance folks are there for a myriad of responsibilities and tasks. That's just one. But Alan, if you go back to that other picture we were at before, it sounds like the recommendation here is to place additional rail somewhere there. It's a possibility. I don't know that it's going to stop folks from using it, but I think once the commission has a chance to go out there and view it themselves and then provide some additional direction to staff, we can address it.
I am going to recommend that we bring up to the agenda next time the business of docents. Now, we can put a docent or a couple of docents there, that would certainly help to have somebody there. But again, that's way off, you know, it's gonna take a bit before we can deal with it. But in any event, Rick, you wanted to?
Yeah, as far as the fencing, I have a grandson who's an avid skater. So these wood fences are a really good idea because when you put the metal fencing, obviously that attracts. And it looks to me like maybe somebody tried to skate on top of that rail, and those won't support that. But as far as the one next to the house, maybe some additional signage right there, you know,
No, no.
unfortunately.
For all intents and purposes, too, the vinyl fencing is relatively cheap to repair.
Yeah.
We have an order of this particular brand on order in bulk, so it'll be in inventory very shortly. So as these rails break, they can be replaced next day. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, so if anything, I'm just asking if they put it along the street side where people are walking, so people
Thanks.
themselves don't walk in that too.
Thank you.
Well, coming back to the 7 o'clock posting, you said that nobody's paying any attention to it. I was just wondering, has the dog situation been declining? How long have you lived there? What has it been all right in the past?
I've lived there for 19 years.
Okay.
I would say, no, it was not so bad. Most of the people didn't use the dog park in the beginning.
Okay.
And probably in the last couple years, it's just gradually gotten worse. Because I live directly across the street, and where I live, there's some tables, and most people sit at those tables. But they kind of were the humane or the pound or whatever you call them, animal control was coming out and was starting to ticket because those people, they never put their dogs on leashes outside. So then they would come around 4 o'clock when those people get there, and they started citing some of them. So then they started, and in the morning, then they started going to the dog park. So they make it their own dog park. They brought their own chairs, and I mean, then that's fine. That's all fine and dandy, but when I had surgery, I asked them to please keep their dog quiet, and they said, there's no way you can keep a dog quiet. They told me to put a muzzle on me and keep me quiet.
It's really over the top kind of a response.
It is over the top, and that's the kind of response. They don't care. They said there's no way to keep a dog quiet.
So in your perception, the law enforcement, as far as animal control, has diminished. That's part of the
Oh, they
problem.
don't, there's nobody ever there.
So that's something we can take back to staff and say, what's going on with animal control? Why aren't they patrolling?
Well, it is, but the park hours are from, I always get dusk till dawn or whatever. And so they're there when the sun comes up. The police or the animal control doesn't come on till 8 o'clock. So there's no way. You have that hour and a half that it's already light outside at 5 or 5:30, whatever it starts up, and these people are there.
I understand what you're saying. What we can do is go back through the city, though, to animal control and speak to them about doing something with their hours. I'd also like to strongly suggest that you speak to the council the next time they meet and show them what you've got, just as you've talked to us. Mm-hmm. I think presenting to them like you did would make a big difference. Rather
Yeah,
than
I didn't
just
have
saying
pictures last time, but I have spoke with, I don't know if it was the same meeting. I came once before, and,
Yeah, you came to us once
oh, okay,
before.
yeah.
We will, how many people do we have in animal control?
Per contract, there's supposed to be at least 2 on duty at any time. On the weekend, it's 1 and then 1 on call.
Okay, so they are, but we have, what, 30?
It's 46 square miles, so there's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
territory.
But, I mean, number of parks, so
Yeah.
we're cut rather thin.
It's
Yes.
just a matter of getting their attention on it from the
Yeah.
sound of it. And
If we tell them about it, or if we have staff, I should say, tell them about it, maybe they can come more often. And in the meantime, we'll take a look and see what's going to happen with Menifee Road and whether or not it's possible to swap the, you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other people to speak?
There are none.
Okay. That brings us to discussion items. Item 8.1. I'm assuming this is you, Robert.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioners, the item before you is a consideration of an ordinance number 2015-167, adding Chapter 9.86 to the Menifee Municipal Code, which would essentially regulate park design, landscaping, and tree preservation within the city of Menifee. It's a rather lengthy document. It's comprised of the ordinance itself and then 2 guideline manuals, so to speak, with a series of details that are relative or relevant to the construction and design of parks and landscaped areas within the city. This applies to both public and private property. There is, as I mentioned, myriad of information in here. We attempted to get this to you ahead of time to give you a little more time to absorb it. I will say that last night the Planning Commission did start their review of it. They opted to get a little more time on it, but that was mostly because they didn't have as much lead time as you all did. Because this is a design element, it is being proposed for adoption into the development code. And essentially what that does is requires anybody building a facility, especially a public facility in the city, to abide by these standards. Doesn't matter if the city owns it or not. And this provides a level of uniformity and ensures that everything is done safely. Currently, there's nothing on the books that the city has to regulate this. And
Didn't the city adopt whatever the county had?
which was very thin. It didn't actually have much information regarding parks in particular, and the landscaping portion was kind of bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
so where did this information get developed from, the proposal?
So about, I'd say 2 months ago, you all recommended the approval of a contract with our consultant, our landscape architect consultant, to work with staff in developing these manuals and these standards.
And they did that.
And they did that, and we assisted with that, and what you have before you is the result. Depending on the outcome of your discussion this evening, we can take your feedback, incorporate it, and bring it along with the Planning Commission's input to council for first reading and then adoption shortly thereafter. We can use this evening to go through any questions you might have on any of the standards. I would want to point out that there was a number of slight corrections throughout the ordinance, just ensuring that standards mentioned in one area are mirrored in the other. We found those already, and we'll make those changes. So if you have others, we're welcome. We welcome them.
Well, let me open it up to the commission. Gentlemen, are there any questions that you'd like to bring up? I don't know who was first. Rick? Really? Oh, okay, Tom? Go ahead.
I've read some of it. It's a lot to take in. There is the discussion, descriptive in there about public and private property, and I'm sure that's going to be a sensitive matter for people who own private property. And it's just the way the definition is written, it wasn't 100% clear if a private residence could be affected or whether it had to be something like a community property, like a development where the people has a homeowners association. Did you folks discuss that?
Yeah, the landscape standards apply to public and private, and it essentially on the private side makes a recommendation. If it's a private residence, like single family dwelling unit, something like that, those landscape requirements are minimal. Essentially, they're referring to if you have a tree and it's growing over your property onto public property, there's some things you can and can't do, and those are outlined in here. Versus what is on public property or property that is private but constructed in the public right of way or adjacent to, there are some requirements. So, for example, Applebee's, when they built their facility and the landscaping that was out front, the portion that was within their parcel, but adjacent to the right of way, still had to meet the minimum landscape requirements that are now spelled out in these standards. So it had to be a CalSense controller. It had to have point-to-point drip. It had to have all of these things. So those minutia details don't apply to single-family residents, but they do apply to public access private property.
Now, what about people that have already been here a while, and they have put in whatever, and it may or may not comply? Are we going to force them to tear it out and change it?
No, it does not apply to them. It's only
So
for
there
new
is a
developments.
grandfather.
Correct.
Okay.
And-
Just wanted to make sure that, I didn't see it.
Yeah,
Written, I meant.
the way it was
Right.
written, I wasn't quite clear on either. I'm glad you could clarify it. Maybe it needs to be massaged a little the way it's written. Something I also just wanted to mention because it comes to mind as an opportunity. Some cities, not a lot, I understand Pasadena did this, banned certain poisonous plants. I think particularly oleander was the one. And this could be an opportunity for us to maybe do something like that while we're still building out this city. If you have it, it's grandfathered. If you don't, let's keep it out of town before somebody gets hurt by it. Just something I'd like to suggest.
What I didn't mention is that the way this is constructed is similar to how, as an example, our Quimby ordinance is written. The authority for the city to enforce or require a standard is what's authored in the ordinance itself. The guidelines for those essentially get adopted by resolution anytime thereafter. So if there is a change that it comes with during the year, maybe there's some new findings from Eastern Municipal about how much water you should use, and maybe there's a list of new plants that need to be added to the drought tolerant list, or new ones that are poisonous, or whatever happens, we can go back and change those without having to adjust the ordinance at all. It's just by resolution we say, we've updated it, here's the new pieces, and it makes it a lot smoother.
And we would just approve it. No,
Correct.
yeah. Okay, Rick, you had yours lit.
Yeah, if you could go to page 15.
I'm sorry, 15?
15, section 2.5 track.
15.
Basically, my question is, are we going to adopt as far as trails go, the county standard for trails? I know that they have some excellent standards, design features.
I'm sorry, Rick, what page?
Page 15, not of the ordinance, but
Oh,
after the
okay.
ordinance.
Sorry.
Yeah.
15 of which one, I'm sorry?
Past, you go past acknowledgement there. Table of-
Landscape
see.
standards?
Yes.
Yes.
Table of contents. And park design standards, 2.5 trails,
And I don't even see it.
right here. Make sure we're all on the same page.
But that's it. I'm in landscape standards.
Maybe it's not landscape.
It's under,
Unless it is park development design guidelines?
yeah, it's your first, yes, it's your first park development design guidelines,
Yeah, that's what it is.
page 15.
Okay. 2.5 trails, go ahead.
Right. My question is the actual design going to be included in the standards? I know the park has, the county has 3 or 4 different design standards for trails, for
depending on the trail.
Multi-purpose trail, BG.
Yeah.
If it's an equestrian area, rural area. Will those be included? I don't see them here.
No, they wouldn't be included in here as a cross-section, for example. The Parks Master Plan is essentially what this calls out. Will incorporate, one, the full network that's intended to exist at full build-out, and two, what typical cross-sections would be expected on the various trail types throughout the city.
My suggestion would be to photocopy the county stamp because it's really good.
We will use that, definitely, yeah.
And just add a copy to it, add it as a glossary item or, an appendix.
Right.
Yeah.
Not reinvent, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
It's already big, it doesn't matter if we make it even bigger. Otherwise, it's really good. I mean, I read it through twice, and unfortunately, there's what, 100 and, how many pages?
It's a lot. It's about 60 for the park standards and then like 120, I think, for the landscape.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information, you're right.
But it's necessary. I absolutely agree that it adds a means of becoming something where everybody will be on the same page, rather than do their own thing,
Yeah.
which is what they're doing.
There are two things that I think probably should be noted. The first is, you all remember from prior updates, and there'll be another one tonight on the parks in progress. We have approximately 23 that we know of right now, and there's a couple more pending. But of the 23, more than a couple handfuls are in some stage of review. And essentially, if they get to the point of submitting working drawings, we are typically having to mark those up until they're bloody and send them back, because at the time they submit, they have no idea what the city's expectation is. And so...
And it's not their fault.
And it's not their fault, and so they submit as a first round plan check, and they get it back, and after they pick their jaw up off the ground, they say they essentially have to go back to their landscape architects, redesign it at cost, and resubmit it. And then there likely are a couple more rounds of that, because there are nuances that weren't in the first round, and they've chosen something else the second. So the document allows them to be more efficient with their time and their money, and it saves a lot of time on staff as well, because we spend a lot on red ink. And so we can save a lot of that with this process. The second item I wanted to highlight is there was a comment from one of the commissioners last night, and I think it was a good one, and should be considered by this group as well. The exclusion, the plan currently calls for an exclusion of synthetic turf grass in people's yards. And the commissioner that pointed it out felt that it should be omitted so that folks could be allowed to have synthetic turf on their property. And furthermore, there be some definitions to what that suggests. So you wouldn't want someone putting in AstroTurf or putting green turf that you find at the mini golf place.
Well,
But
there
instead,
are multiple types.
exactly,
Of this.
exactly. So to define that is what was being requested, and I think staff would support that, but that's certainly another consideration for the commission here tonight.
Are you talking about the front?
For the front and side of the yards of the homes, yes.
How soon will the planning commission have their notes on this back to you?
They are supposed to meet with staff by this week and next week, and then go back to them on the 11th.
So the next time we get together, we'll be able to see anything that they'd like to make modifications to.
We can bring it back, yes.
Okay,
It,
I
it,
think we
it,
should.
it'll certainly be,
I have no problem with that, but I can't imagine why they would want to do that.
Well,
I
they may
mean,
have
it's
other
so
things
much
they
more
have to do.
expensive.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the AstroTurf?
Yeah, the AstroTurf.
I'm just talking about the planning commission making adjustments to it or suggestions that we should see also.
Remember when we saw the various types of synthetics in some of the parks that we went to see, there were some serious problems with some of them. You know, with children running on them and falling on them and rolling in them.
That consideration was, again, for private property, residential.
Do people understand that, you know?
Well, to answer the question that you had, the reason why folks like those is there are often rebate programs from EMWD, Western Municipal, even Riverside Utility has done them to encourage people to consume less water. And so there is a capital cost, no different than solar. You have an upfront capital cost, but over time, at least solar, you get something you could get paid back potentially. But for the turf, you're looking at saving usage of water over a long period of time, and especially since they're ornamental, the lifetime on those lawns is much longer than you know what you see in the sports
I have no problem if
parks.
that's what they want to do.
I think that's the intent of it.
I suppose we should allow them to do whatever, you know, whatever they feel like.
Just residential, if you're talking about commercial, did that come up about doing it on commercial property?
The same would apply to the private commercial property.
property.
Yeah, but again, the distinction is that the use of that is nowhere near what it would be in a public park or in a sports park setting. So some of the degrading condition wouldn't exist. It's sort of apples and oranges, and even the turf companies, they sell different products for different applications.
Personally, I have no problem.
Yeah, I'd just like to
Doing
make
that.
sure that we get the planning commission's notes and feedback so we can see what they're suggesting.
I,
We're all in agreement.
by all means, you know, we should. But I have no problem with this, with the exception of what we've discussed, which would be modified anyway.
A recommendation might be, because the content that we heard from, or the feedback we heard from the Planning Commission last night was really mostly, some of it grammatical, but for the most part, there were philosophical differences about what the standards should include. As an example, should the city be more concerned with a zero-scaping approach versus more of a flowering or succulent arrangement for its plant palette? I mean, these are, in our opinion, and staff's opinion, something you consider on a case-by-case basis. And the ordinance as it's written allows for that, because ultimately every plan that's submitted, whether it's conceptual or actual working drawings, comes before a body of the city. Either it's Planning Commission, it's Park and Rec Commission, or staff, where that stuff gets vetted out. And so the flexibility is already written in. A lot of the discussion last night was just about, well, I prefer this and I prefer that. And I think, you know, folks are entitled to that.
I think as long as you're leaving it open for giving some flexibility there, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
But I think it is a good idea. The recommendation from staff is for you all to recommend approval by city council, but even in light of that, I'd be happy to bring back the recommended changes from the Planning Commission, just so you can see contextually what it is they wanted to even address. I mean, really, it was a lot of words, just minor
The
wordsmithing.
way you're describing it, I would go along with it.
I would go along with it also. Are there, well, is there any concern about approving this prior to us even seeing what the Planning Commission would like to see changed?
Not for me. I think it, you know, I understand the semantics are so close that it's not worth holding it up. I think we need to get this going
I'd go
fairly
along with
quickly.
it,
I go
judging
along
from what
also,
Robert
and
said, yeah,
I think that the sooner we can get this approved,
better for everybody.
yeah. So, in that case, I need a motion to accept this ordinance, adding Chapter 9.86 to the municipal code, and, which would regulate design, landscape, and tree preservation within Menifee.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second here.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a vote. We should have a
Yes.
roll call vote. Margarita, please.
Commissioner Marty Rosen,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Gidroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ken Gaunt,
Yes.
Commissioner Richard Croy,
Yes.
and Commissioner Bill Zimmerman, who's not here.
Obviously. Okay. So this is approved,
And what I would,
4 to, well, 1 absent, so it's just 4 to 1. Yeah.
and what staff will commit to doing is, we will come back to you with the final standard guidelines for both, okay? So what you've approved this evening is the ordinance, but both guidelines with the full set of details, we can bring those back to you, because those will need to be approved by city council as resolutions. So we can still, there's still another bite of the apple, is my point.
Okay.
Excellent. And I really think that we should have a final copy of it. I know it's a lot of paper, but we need to keep it and have it.
We'll bind it for you guys and give you
Yes,
each a copy.
Something. Thank you. That is certainly in the right direction.
Thank you, staff, for
That
your
is
work.
a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Outstanding.
That brings us to 8.2 on the agenda. We've been asked to recommend Bill Zimmerman and Tom to an ad hoc committee for park naming of the Audie Murphy Ranch. I think that's an almost 9-acre park, something like that.
Yeah, there's if you recall from the prior Parks in Progress update, and you'll see an update this evening as well, the original name, I guess you could say, given to the park that was on the working drawings is just an exhibit of the monument sign, said the courts. And it was found out after the fact that that was just a placeholder. They wanted something more reflective of the development as a whole, as well as possibly paying some homage to the history of the area. So you have the Audie Murphy component, this sort of military component, and then you also have the Native American influence of the area.
There was a person, I wish I could remember the man's name, who was there prior to Audie Murphy, who Audie Murphy bought it from. That person goes back into the 1800s. We could name it after that person.
It was Bob
But
Hope.
let's leave it, no, it wasn't. No. One of the pioneers. But certainly Bill will remember. He's there. And again, do we need a roll call vote?
I don't believe you need a roll call. I think the recommended action is to accept the appointments.
Okay,
yeah.
well, then, again, I need a motion to accept the appointments.
Also moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I need a second.
Second.
Rick seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried unanimously. Okay. Brings us to item 9. And 9.1, master plan update. Can I ask at what point we're going to have the company that was hired to come here and give us a,
Well, why don't I run through the update, and then it may be evident at that time. If you, you guys can click it from there, that's fine. So you guys may recall there was a parks tour that occurred on February 9th with the consultant, and staff went with the consultant out to all the various parks. And when I say all, I do mean all. It's a lot. And they started their data collection and are doing their analysis right now. We also have done a pretty massive data upload to them, which includes our incorporation documents, a lot of our as-builts, our budget information. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, so that they can start sifting through some of this and begin drafting that plan. Currently, there is a sports user group questionnaire that's being distributed out to the various groups, so that'd be Little League, Pony, girls softball, soccer, just all the groups that are out there. This is just another way to gather information. Then March through April, the phone and online surveys will begin. And again, if you recall, those are sample size, intended to be sample sizes that are statistically significant for the city's population, where similar questions are asked, but not the same ones that are asked of the sports user groups, because those are a different demographic of folks altogether. And you'll recall I sent an email out to the commission, I think a week and a half or so ago, to inform you of the stakeholder interviews that are on March 19th. And it sounded like, I think I'd received a response from all of you. I will be publishing a schedule for those interviews so that you guys can plan accordingly. Those interviews are about 30 to 45 minutes apiece. It's your opportunity to give your direct feedback to the consultants about what it is you'd like to see, what you had envisioned for a park system in the city of Menifee. That's the best opportunity to talk face-to-face with them. It's done in small groups intentionally to allow you a lot of time to provide your information. And if they run over, that's okay. They run over. I think they understand they're very, very valuable interview sessions. Fast forwarding, though, to March 30th, it's the very first community workshop. This is a general intake workshop with the community. It's got it's got some design charrettes and more questionnaire sort of things, group activities. It's intended to be held in a fairly large area so that we can do breakout groups. We haven't gotten a location yet, but we're working on that right now.
you have not heard from,
No, still waiting.
okay.
April 20 is the next workshop. This is actually geared toward the sports user groups in particular. This is their round 2 to hear about, we don't have enough fields, or,
You're going to hear that.
yes, we will.
Oh, you're going to hear it already. Yeah.
We have too many of this, we have too little of that. That's their opportunity. And also for them to discuss the allocation process of ball fields, the permitting. Because again, a piece of this is the recreation programming. It's not just facilities. And then finally, on May 11th, the last workshop is to try and bring everyone back together and review with them the full scope of information that's been collected and sort of fine-tune it before it goes to the draft phase. So I try to just summarize all of the outreach efforts here. If for some reason you are not able to make the March 19th stakeholder interview, the consultant says they can make themselves available either before or after one of the community workshops to do an extended one-on-one with them. So if that's a desire of any of the commissioners, just let me know. We can sort of arrange that. But I would suggest an attempt at the regular stakeholder interviews first.
One question, can we get a copy of that?
Yes.
sheet? And
I've already planned on being sick on that day. So.
Good. We'll
you
try not
feel
to
it
have
coming
lunch.
on now?
We'll try not to have lunch in downtown Riverside then.
Good idea.
Um, Okay, March 19th. Yeah, I do have a Waste Management Commission meeting, but that's earlier, so I will be able to make that. I'm going to put it right in my book now.
And what I can do with you, Chair, is just coordinate. There are time blocks throughout the day. So whenever you're out of your other meeting, we can find a spot that will fit your schedule best.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall I move on to the next update?
Surely.
Yes, and you're going to get us a copy of all of these things.
Yes.
This too,
Yes.
because we don't have it in our packet.
So capital improvement program update. I'm actually going to turn this over to Alan in a moment, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things. The Audie Murphy Ranch Sports Park warranty repairs that I believe we made the commission aware about a few meetings ago are in process right now, starting March 2nd, which is Monday, and will be continuing through to March 20th. And these are pretty significant drainage and irrigation improvements, replanting of turf areas. These are design issues that Brookfield had with the park. They've taken responsibility for them, and they're going to be addressing them. So that's on the horizon. In addition, though, we will be reseeding the soccer field as soon as they've concluded this work. So it's ready for the next season of play. I will go ahead and turn it over to Alan for the rest of the CIP updates.
Good evening, Commissioners. The playground resurfacing project has been completed. Nova Park, EL Pete Peterson, and Lazy Creek Park. Moving down to the K Sinicero Senior Center campus renovations, there's two projects, interior and exterior improvements. Interior improvements consist of ADA accessibility, renovations to the men's and women's restrooms, and also doing audio-video improvements to the multi-purpose room for the stage area. Exterior improvements consist of ADA accessibility improvements in the parking lot, addressing sidewalk issues, ramp issues, and parking spaces. And we'll be also renovating the exterior right-of-way landscaping, knocking down the block wall, adding a new CalSense controller, point-to-point drip irrigation, waterized landscaping, and then we're also rehabbing the parking lot, new slur seal, and new striping. Moving down to the Sun City Boulevard median renovation project, consisting of renovating the existing gravel street medians on Sun City Boulevard from Cherry Hills Boulevard to McCall. Working on utility coordinating with ENWD for the water meter. For the playground repainting, since we resurfaced the playground surfaces at the parks, now the play equipment looks old. So we'll be repainting the playground equipment. And then also we'll be installing new park furnishings throughout the parks, new park benches, new picnic tables, new barbecues. And then also the last project is a tree planting project. It's a grant from CAL FIRE, Leafing Out grant. We'll be planting approximately 128 trees at EL Pete Peterson and Lyle Park, and also doing a education component to it. We'll be giving out 300 tree samplings, seedlings at our next big event, Springfest, on March 28th.
And of course, you have in front of you your usual spreadsheet, which is the updated CIPs. Alan just highlighted some of the stuff that we're currently in progress of. There is certainly a longer list, but as you can tell, there's a lot of activity going on and a lot of needs still. Any questions relative to the capital improvement?
Could I request that you make the copies of the 9123 and give it to us? Can you do that?
Yeah.
In fact, can you do that now so that we can look at it or have it?
The,
We don't have 91 or 92.
Typically, we don't publish the items under the comments section, but we don't have a problem providing you guys copies of it. That's totally, we can do that.
we can wait till the end, or later.
I do have a question regarding the park furnishings. You're just replacing out whatever's there. Nothing new going in, is that right?
Replacing and adding additional, because
are adding
at the
more.
parks, pretty much the existing park finishings were the bare minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit more going in.
As an example, Lyle Marsh Park, which is a expansive, sort of passive/active park, has these great big shade structures, steel shade structures that have really weathered well. They have no picnic benches underneath them. It's just a cement pad.
Okay.
So that would be new.
Chance to fix that up.
Yes.
Okay.
How much money is this gonna run?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I want to make one comment about the Sun City Boulevard
The median?
renovation. I think it's going to be outstanding, I really do, because what you've already done on what we've already done on Cherry Hills looks great, and the area between Cherry Hills and McCall are definitely in need, and it's going to be a big, huge improvement. I would like to figure out a way, even though it's not our part to do so, I would like to figure out a way to bring this attention to the landowners of the shopping center there, that poor dilapidated-looking shopping center that needs so much help. Here, the city is putting all this effort and money into trying to beautify this area. The shopping center is getting worse. I don't know if it's our place to even mention it, but I think we should, at the very least, draw attention to those property owners that were trying to improve the area, especially down the road when a new shopping center is going to open up just on the other side of the freeway, not too distant future. So I think it's important that they be reminded what we're trying to lift things up.
To answer your question or to address your comment, I know that Councilman August, as well as our Economic Development Director and the City Manager, have been in discussion with the property owner, and there are some plans to do some immediate improvements to the property and trying to spruce it up. There are some other much more invasive traffic flow and design layout issues in that entire complex that will take a much bigger effort, but I know that there are some things in the works right now. It sounded like there was another question about cost on furnishings.
Yeah, I was wondering what the new furnishings will cost and how long their lifespan will be.
Sure. The new furnishings, as an example, when we had to swap out everything over at Audie Murphy Ranch Sports Park because it was originally installed with teak, costs us about $47,000. Now, that site has many, many little enclaves and areas to relax, and so that is going to be the higher end, and that's a large park. For the existing, I would anticipate it to be significantly less. It could be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 per park. It just really depends. You know, you see a line item in your CIP tracking report that has a figure of about $80,000. That's to tackle probably the most egregious conditions we have right now.
Are we going to try to make sure that when new parks are brought in, that they put in the right things in the first place? Saves us an awful lot of money in the long run.
This great Bible that you've
right.
approved
We just
tonight
did that.
does have a listing of all the appropriate site furnishings that need to be included, yes.
So we won't allow them to just put in anything?
No.
No, all right, good. Anything else? Okay. So that brings us to 9 point,
Actually, yeah, why don't we go there?
oh, yeah, go ahead, keep going.
These are just some aftershots of the 3 parks that were, where the playground surfaces were redone. This is the new, Alan, correct me with the right terminology for this, but the rubberized play surface, which is an aggregate chopped up tire, recycled tire base. Go ahead.
Yes, the sub layer is the recycled tire product, and the top layer is they call it virgin plastic. And it was we tried to match the playground equipment. It was the bollards or the posts were the main colors, and we would do a 50-50 mix, 50 color, 50 black. Yeah.
So if you haven't had a chance to go and visit these sites, they look great. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, both in person every time we go, and then also on Facebook. People are very ecstatic about the conditions. It actually drew some attention to also the trees surrounding these, because some are not playground friendly. So we'll be looking to adjust some of that as well moving forward.
What was the problem that we had last time? Somebody had brought up a problem at Nova Park. Do you know?
They were talking about people hanging out.
Oh, yes, the public comment from the gentleman who lives across the street. He witnesses after-hours use, typically teenagers, similar to the commenter tonight about Peterson. Yes, those things exist at all of our parks, and one of the other capital outlay items we would like to address in the year or years to come is a comprehensive surveillance system for all of our parks, so that when things happen, we can get them on film and post that they're being filmed, and typically that drives a lot of the negative things away.
I've seen those.
Yeah, that'll send them to another city.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Please.
On this new rubberized surface or plastic, is there a warranty on that, Alan?
I believe he said it was a 10-year warranty.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have to do maintenance to it. Every so often you have to power wash it and stuff like that. And I believe he said after 3 or 4 years, you can do a recoating, and that even extends it even longer. Yes.
Yeah, there's like a clear coat that goes over the top of it. And then there was the comment about how long the site furnishings last as well. The specified detail in the manual is a product that has 2 warranties, and Alan can share what those are.
For the park furnishings, the benches, trash cans, and the park tables, the product that we specified has a 20-year structural warranty, and it has a 10-year coating warranty on it, because they're powder coated, epoxy and powder coat.
It was one of the better product offerings and warranty offerings that are out there, so that's why it was chosen. And so this was a request, I think, from the prior meeting, and again, we'll provide this to you in hard copy. The 2 accounts that we utilized to fund these projects, at least so far, not including our CDBG dollars, this is just our DIF only. It's the Parks DIF, and for 14-15 fiscal year, the budgeted amount was about $500,000. It had been adjusted when we approved the Park Master Plan. To date, we've either expended or encumbered $421,000, leaving a balance of $78,000. And that's just for the current year. Now, there's a distinction to be made here. There is also fund balance, which is essentially undesignated for the current year. So when you add your current fiscal year balance and your fund balance together, that tells you what the true balance is in the Parks DIF, and that's at about 602. And that obviously goes up every year because we're constantly collecting
So we've got
DIFs.
over $1 million between parks and,
Correct.
okay.
And the expenditure does include the Parks Master Plan?
It does, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Encumbered and expended, yes.
Right.
And we're going to get a copy of that shortly.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know how much time you'd like to spend on this. I do recall there was a request to ensure that this came back to you on a frequent basis.
Once a month, I think.
Okay.
Would be fine. And
So-
since we're going to meet twice a
Yeah.
month, you just once.
There's only a handful of changes that have occurred since the last time you've seen this. Again, hard copies coming. I'll highlight what has happened under the courts, the PA 31. The city had signed the Mylars, and it is under construction. That's the number 4 item on there. Moving down, let's see. just to highlight number 21, there was a change. I think originally we had identified 4.7 acres. The maps we were provided that were approved by the county some time ago were very blurry. It was very hard to tell. And so we had to drill down into the pinks on the project and found out it's actually 14.7 acres of parks. As you'll note, though, there's 3 parks that are spread. They have not submitted the final map, and so we're hoping that we can consolidate as
Yeah, that would be
typical.
great.
Then, and let's see, other changes.
additional acreage in brackets about.
Oh, just to note that was added from the prior time you had seen this, yes. Excuse me. The Sunwood, which is number 15, we were waiting for a resubmittal from the applicant. The original park had residential properties on 2 sides and a basin on a 3rd side, meaning there was only one side open to the street level for access. And so we met with them and negotiated at very least 2 sides of access to the park. And they are going to be resubmitting that for final approval.
But we're talking about a park that's only 1.3 acres?
Yes, it is small. But the downside about obviously having a park that's, encompassed by homes raises other issues that I think are pretty significant.
It allows for more parking as well, right, on street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cimarron Ridge, number 9. This, you had seen a conceptual on this. The applicant wants to reconsider the design of the site. One of the parks, there's actually 3 parks incorporated in that. One of them falls squarely in a basin with significant enhancements. So a tot lot, a restroom building, these are all big no-nos for basins. And so we've told them, you have to reconsider this. They had to come back and resubmit anyways because of some of the water quality measures that have changed over the years. This was an older project. And so they would like to do a DA and are going to consider revising the park layout. So when that happens, it'll bring it back to you all for consideration as well.
Are they doing enough changes we could get more acreage by way of the revision to Quimby?
That's the goal, is that we want to consolidate the 3 and have one larger park, yes.
Okay.
And it may change their density. So to your point, you could see a different acreage as well, overall. That's the majority of the significant changes since the last time you've seen this.
I do have one question on
Go ahead.
the number 20, Cantalina. I know that there was a workshop last night.
Yes.
And my question is, it's a 14.6 acre park, which is wonderful. It was previously entitled in the county that at build out, if the school doesn't go in, the number isn't up to our 5 acre per thousand thing, but
Right.
they can do that.
Yeah, to be determined, I think.
To be determined.
If they are resubmitting any part of it, then the new standard applies. So they would have to do 5 per thousand.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's
We'll get
wonderful.
another 3 or 4
Let's
acres.
hope they
out
do
of it.
that.
correct.
And the other question too is where they have, I'm pretty familiar with this project, we've been following it for years because it's in my neighborhood, is that where they have the park placed is actually in a low spot in where Paloma Wash comes in.
Yeah.
My thing is I want to make sure that we get away from having those catch basin parks where kids can't play in them 3 months out of the year because it's too wet.
Yes.
And Paloma Wash is a very significant blue line stream. I want to make sure that that park is usable year round.
Yes.
Good point.
I should mention that because you said about catch basins, there is a 40-acre catch basin east of the high school in the unincorporated area that abuts Menifee.
Homeland?
I don't know if
It is.
it's Homeland, right?
It's the
Yeah.
Heritage High School.
In any event, after conversations that I've had with the county supervisor, we can have it. And we should think about how to go about that, because somehow or other, we would have to convince the city council to annex it. But the county will give it to us. Now, it's 40 acres, and regardless if it, I don't think it's that wet at all, but, I mean, 40 acres of land is nothing to sneeze at, so, and of course, they can't build on it anyway, so they wouldn't be allowed to. So it's perfect for fields, whatever fields you like.
Yeah, I think the chair's right. There's some annexation that needs to be worked out, but
I would like to put that on the agenda for future, so that we can talk about it and get a recommendation to the city council, because they're the ones who are going to have to deal with the, the issue of annexing.
okay.
But I really wouldn't turn down,
Any chance the
if
school
he's,
district?
if he's in a good mood, to,
Any chance
give
the
it to us.
school district might want it?
I'd rather they don't even know about it.
Just asking?
If it's the desire of the commission to agendize that, maybe at item 11, at least two of you make that recommendation, we can add it for discussion.
Explore the possibility.
Yes, we'll do that
Okay.
at that time.
The only other
yeah.
addition to this is there was in process, the conveyance of a property over off of Briggs, Getz, near Quail Valley, that the city was given by the county. I don't know the exact acreage on it. There is no intended or designated use of it yet. I think originally there was a concept of having some sort of park or recreation use there, possibly even a cell tower to help fund that use. But those are purely early discussions. But that is coming and likely will be a future item for your consideration and another project on this list.
Northeast or northwest of Audie Murphy?
It's
Yeah.
up in Quail Valley.
Northwest, yes.
Quail Valley is.
It's about 2 acres, maybe a little bit more. Boys and Girls Club was looking at it at one time, yeah.
There is, just to be aware that that's still within the no-build zone.
Yeah.
So there are some hurdles to still get past. So
I want to also, since we're doing Parks in Progress, Talvera, which is not on our list.
Yeah, it is,
It is.
17.
Where is it?
17.
It is 17, you're right. Tom brought this up, Talvera. TR 29777, 2.7 acres of parks, 11 acres of open space. They're building, but we don't know about trails. And there were trails going through there. If they don't put the trails in, it's going to cut it, prevent
There's
the
definitely-
trail from existing.
There's definitely trails there. Whether they're designated trails is really the issue, but there's lots of neighbors of mine who use them. We've used them.
Oh, no, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if we don't look into it, or let's put it, I would ask the staff to please look into it to make sure that trails are incorporated into
the final map?
whatever they're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think what's occurring now is some rough grading. You've probably seen that.
You can hear it every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So once the final map's submitted, we'll certainly look for those
Just make sure
local
that
trails.
they don't disappear.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to 9.4.
So at the request of the commission, we're bringing back to you an update on the contract for maintenance and programming that's currently provided by Valleywide Park Recreation and Park District. Some of the contract compliance issues that we've been working through with them include what's on the screen here. We have accuracy and timeliness of building issues. Margarita is the lucky winner of that responsibility. Additionally, online registration, which is a requirement of the contract, still has not been achieved. And so if a resident is at home, would like to enroll in a class, they currently can't do that. They have to either come into the center or come into City Hall to do that. Facility rentals, currently within the reservation system, which is called Rec 1, we are able to draw down a master report on majority of indoor reservations, but not very many of the outdoor ones. And I'm really referring to ball field permitting for seasons of play for the various groups. There seems to be a delay in getting these in, and some inconsistencies in those. The outdoor reservations, particularly for picnic shelters, for the better part of 3 months or so, were being deferred from the sites over to City Hall. And so we would be receiving inquiries as people walked in the door saying, well, we were sent over here to do this. But the contract clearly states that those transactions, though, that convenience should be offered at the centers, at the parks, where there's a point of sale workstation.
How long has this contract been in existence now?
Since July. So, to date, we've only received 1 month of programming statistics. The contract calls out a monthly reporting. To date, we've only received 1 month of abatement application, and what I'm referring to is the spray reports for weed and any gopher or pest control. We've only received one. The one we did receive was, at least in staff's opinion, a result of a request, given that we had seen an increase in our weeds. And we're inquiring as to when the next spray was, when the next weeding was. We also have yet to receive licensing and certifications for file that are required by the contract, by the base contract. This would include spray applicator license. This would include certifications for playground inspection or gopher abatement or any of the ones that are listed within the base contract. And then lastly, we do not yet have a listing of employees with their cleared live scanner background checks, which again is a requirement of the base contract. So there are significant items here. I think certainly the ones toward the bottom are important, but the ones we deal with on a regular daily basis are more toward the top. As you'll see on the next slide, these are the expenditures for each of the contracts. The top one is our base contract that was approved by City Council, the amount of $738,000, almost $739,000. To date, invoiced was $366, and payments match that, leaving a balance of $372, which is just under 50%. Now, moving down to the additional services agreement, that, again, is really relevant to extra work, which originally was considered to be part of the base, but then determined not to be. And these would be things like sprinkler repair, anything that's not mow and blow, to keep it very simple. That would fall into the additional work contract. And so far, work requests that have been approved by city staff, either requested or approved by city staff, total $60,000. So far, we've only been invoiced for about $25,000. So the amount processed for payments 14, and leaving a balance of just under 40, and that's essentially 25%, and only 14% of that has been paid.
I see 69 requests, so you're anticipating that this number is going to come up.
It comes up on a daily basis. So as you saw in the presentation, the pictures from the resident near Yale Peterson this evening, broken rail fence would be something that would be an additional work item. If they happen on a weekly basis, then we get weekly work requests for those to be repaired. So yes, again, the base contract does not cover those things. So this is the latest, but is this the last slide? Yes, okay. So we'd be happy to answer any questions on this. We're constantly updating this as we get it.
Well, obviously, you must have gone back to Valleywide about these issues. What kind of response are you getting?
Well, it varies. If we go back to the list, yeah. Marguerite has dealt pretty consistently with their accounting team. It is a constant back and forth. When we receive a billing, there are some modifications that need to be made to make sure it's billed to the correct fund. Reconciling the approved additional work slips with work that's actually been completed with ones that have been invoiced. There seems to be a backlog, I'll be quite honest. If a fence has been broken and an additional work request has been approved for it, often that won't get addressed for a week, 2 weeks. It takes a while. Again, these are some of the downsides of contracting out these pieces because this can happen.
Well, we're obviously 7 months into this contract.
If it would help, I can give you a couple of other examples I think that the commissioner may benefit from is online registration. We've sent several emails to the tech representative from Valleywide about this and still no resolution. Additionally, there are contract class instructors that operate specifically at the Case San Acero Center, and the industry standard for operating those is that you have an instructor who can optionally collect revenue through their own registration system and then remit a percentage to the agency for the convenience. And what we found is that wasn't happening. They were collecting either in cash, not remitting it, wasn't showing up on our daily deposits, and there was no contract in place. There is supposed to be. Anytime there's cash handling that is not done by the agency or by the agency's contractor, there needs to be some reconciling done, something on file. And so these don't exist. We had to go and execute one directly with the provider at the senior center because we did not see any action by Valleywide on it. And so we hope to now be seeing additional revenue coming through for the classes that have been going on for quite some time with all of the backup documentation to support that. So that's another example. Reservations, I mentioned this, the folks coming to City Hall, not getting the reports. I mean, the rest I think are pretty self-explanatory, but these are daily things that staff is dealing with.
I would recommend that we add this contract to an agenda item for next time, that we examine this thoroughly with the possibility of putting it out to bid again, because we're already 7 months into this contract. This contract is going to come up for renewal in May or June?
Yes, it would. If there's a desire by commission and council to change the intent of the future, there's,
Well, we could look into it, or we could recommend to the council that they put it out for bid. Doesn't change anything. The contract would remain in effect at least until June. And they would have to make a decision about whether or not they were going to continue it beyond the year or go to someone else. But I think that it's up to us to examine it thoroughly and make a recommendation of some kind.
I have a question. Can you,
Please.
Can you forward to the financials there? I firmly remember the $100,000 mark.
Yeah, you see it on the bottom left.
Yeah, and I remember the discussion about that, and there was a lot of consternation about that, and we are already at $60,000 of that 7 months into it.
yes.
That's right.
Disturbing to me.
Yep.
In my opinion, I think in plain old English, we ain't getting what we're paid for. And that concerns me deeply.
Oh, it
This is-
concerns
it's
me
a-
as
it's a-
well.
It's a big ticket item, and if we're not getting the services that we expect and generating some of these revenues that we're expecting, in the business world, if somebody ain't pulling the mark, you go find somebody that does, and I think this is not going well.
If I can get some clarification from Margarita on the base contract, the invoice as of 2/26 includes the month of what, through the month of what?
Through the month of January.
Okay, so through the mid-year, it actually corresponds with spending half of what would be the full contract. So if the spending pattern on the base contract was the same for the second half of the year, the full 738 would be expended. Now,
And if you continue, they'll go over 100,000 if you can continue with the extras.
correct.
I think it behooves us to take a really close look at that and make a recommendation. And I don't want to do that without looking at every piece of paper that we can.
So we
So I
need to put
suggest we
this on
put it
our
on the
agenda.
next agenda as an item to review. Gentlemen?
That sounds good to me.
Well, I need a second to do it anyway.
I agree.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I am disappointed. I was hoping that they would, I mean, I know they were slow in doing it, but I was hoping they would catch up. You know, it's been more than half a year. So, oh well. All right. That brings us, are there any commissioner reports on committee activities?
Yes,
Please.
you and I attended MCAC.
Thank you. And we made a recommendation to the city council. Go ahead.
Oh, we recommended to city council, we had, I'm trying to remember how many people applied, I think it was like
10.
10 or 11.
I think it was 10, but we funded, I think, 6.
We funded 6, everybody got 10 excepting for one, we recommended 20, and that was for the community cupboard.
Correct. And we recommended to the Boys and Girls Club that they get,
The remaining 3,000.
yeah, it was, so it
was
came out
slightly
to
over 3,000.
$13,028.
Yes,
I'll skip the pennies.
right. So that's my report.
Thank you.
My report is,
Please.
would it be appropriate to bring Bill up to speed on the first half of the meeting? Congratulations, you've been appointed to name the new park.
Tom and I,
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
good,
yeah,
good partner.
yeah.
I couldn't think of the name of that historian
There's a gentleman who was the
prior to.
1800s pioneer named James P. Farrell,
That's
who
who
was the homesteader of that, and he raised sheep, and eventually, in the end of stages of his life, sold the property, and Audie Murphy ended up with it. But the original pioneer is James P. Farrell. So we don't know.
But that's your
The commission-
job
yeah,
to
this committee's
decide on a
gonna Kick it
name.
around and come up with something.
Yeah. Anything else?
I do want to throw something
Please.
in there. I don't know if you guys have talked at all about my situation with the inability to be here on the second and fourth Thursdays. And so I'd really like to know if it's all right with this board to consider changing it to
First
the
and third.
first and third Thursdays. It would make things to where I can attend all of the meetings. I feel horrible about being the guy who comes strolling in here, and then you guys say, meeting adjourned. So anyway, as you know, I'm on the MSJC board, and they have, that's their set day is the second Thursday. However, they always call special meeting for the fourth Thursday as well. And so second and fourth, I'm committed and unable to attend. So if it's possible, I'd like to see if we can't start the process, and I think it needs to start here.
Yeah,
I guess we have to put something together and present.
Well, we have to ask, first of all, I just want to make sure that everyone is on board with it, and
Good.
they are. we would have to ask staff to start the process, whatever that process is, whenever you think it can be done. Now, we're just about to begin the march to twice a month. So at what point would you recommend that we ask for a change to the first and third?
I think the appropriate thing will be that you provide direction today for item 11 to add to the next agenda an item that would recommend council approve an amendment to the ordinance establishing the commission, changing the date of those meetings. That would be our recommendation. And secondly, to throw an additional log on the fire, consider, this is more of staff's request, consider the option of, if it's going to be first and third weeks, consider a Wednesday meeting instead of a Thursday. That's purely at your
Wouldn't that
discretion.
interfere with,
Planning Commission
Planning
and
Commission.
City Council.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah,
never
you
mind then,
can't
never
do
mind.
that. We could do Tuesday, if that would make any difference
It-
to anybody. I mean,
Yeah, I think it would still conflict. The Thursday may be better to remain then, so,
okay.
okay.
Could I please have a motion to ask staff that we start the process of changing from second and fourth to first and third?
I would like to make that motion.
And may I have a second?
I would second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is unanimous.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I
Well,
appreciate
we'll
it.
put that on the agenda for next time,
Next meeting.
next meeting.
Homework.
Thursday, okay. Now,
Let's review what's going to be on next meeting's agenda then.
yeah, well, I would like to put on that agenda the docents. We need to start looking at that, bring that up, because as you can see, we're having problem, oh, you weren't here, but a lady came for Pete Peterson again, having a lot of trouble there with presumably people that are selling drugs at night, and
The hours is not working out, people are just showing up anyway.
you know, there's no way of stopping them from coming, it's not locked or anything.
So docents would be a potential way to help enforce.
Correct. You know, even if they were just there, you know, it
Okay.
might help. So I'd like to have docents put on, and,
Chair, you had mentioned earlier in the meeting wanting to add an item. It was discussed during the.
that we wanted to add the item to look at the contract for Valleywide, and put that on it.
Actually, one earlier than that, you had mentioned wanting to add an item, and I had suggested it wait till item number 11 came up.
The regional park?
Oh,
Wasn't that?
was that it?
No,
No.
it was discussed tonight. And
I'm sorry, I believe it was the discussion of that 40-acre basin, right?
Yeah.
The annexation, yeah. uh-huh.
So, yes, I would like to put that on the agenda, that we look at the possibility, well, discuss the possibility of recommending to the city council that they consider an annexation of a 40-acre piece of property that is east of the high school, in unincorporated area, but that the supervisor will look favorably on giving to us. So,
In anticipating putting that on the agenda, we'll need maps, we'll need something from the county probably saying, yes, this is what they're offering?
Well, I'm pretty sure that what the supervisor's gonna want is, Rob just requesting, and they'll get it, you know.
Another thing that might help us in our discussion, if we could get some kind of a ballpark estimate as far as costs to process with LAFCO and all of to do an annexation.
Administrative.
That's right, because I'm sure there's mapping and legal descriptions and all those kinds of things that come in, and if it's many hundreds of thousands of dollars
Oh, it isn't,
and if it costs prohibitive, we'd want to know that.
yeah.
If we can, if on staff behalf, if we can just get a little time to gather that, if it's
So you
not at
wanna
the next
do
one.
that, not the next
Possibly the one after.
Fine.
Just,
Yeah, that's fine.
I think this lineup is good. We know that it may take some time to gather it.
So on the second meeting in March, look at possible annexation. Yes,
And I guess this would go to what Margarita said. There's some discussion about creating that regional park, and maybe as part of this agenda item, talking about discussing ways to fund it.
yes, and I have asked to pick Rob Johnson's brain at a future date, and we'll do that. I'm going to try the same thing with the mayor. What we need is how. What method can we use to get either the necessary land and/or money so that we can either buy property, and if we get the property, we still need money to put in whatever, we need to put in there, the fields, perhaps bathrooms, what have you. So all of that's costly, and there has to be a way of doing it, and I'm sure we're going to have to talk to our legal consultant as well.
And just thinking about it, the location that we're talking about, if we could make that happen, that what a great uplifting and because that area can be kind of rough. What a great way to come into the city with a big park from the east.
Not only that, but next to that is other areas that could also be purchased. There are areas there that are open. Okay.
And Chair, not to derail the discussion, I think putting it on a future agenda, given the direction tonight, is a good first step. I don't want this discussion to be tripped up by any Brown Act considerations. So
Absolutely.
just to give you, yeah.
So we're going to put that on the second meeting from March. What else?
I'd like to see us follow up on Pete Peterson and see if we get any improvement at the next visit. I'm sure that this lady will be back to give us
Well-
her update.
Yeah, well, I don't know if staff will have the answer by then, because we're still looking at the Murrieta Road improvement.
It's true.
But if you can, give us an update. Anything else?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.